call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
Buenos nachos, yo soy huesos. And in this one, let's go ahead and add 2 more live action figures to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now today we will take a look at the Blue Beetle figures from the recently released movie. Now there are actually 2 versions of this figure that you can pick up. You have the regular release version, and then you also have the battle mode version. Now a lot of people have been talking about how they should have just made this into a deluxe pack. Now I am actually more on the side of thinking that that is not such a good idea. Now I do have reasons for this, and in this video we're going to kind of go through the Blue Beetle figures pretty quickly, and then I want to talk about action figure economics. It kind of seems like a lot of people don't understand what kind of value they're getting for their money. So I want to put it into a little bit of perspective, so we'll take a look at that as well. But these are actually 2 really beautiful looking figures that come with a lot of cool accessories. They look really awesome. I mean, just take a look at them in the boxes and they look really cool. Now they do look pretty millennial in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at them. First, they do each come with your black DC Multiverse stand. Now, of course, these are not really needed, especially if the figures come with sculpted ankle joints. I have noticed that these figures are very easy to stand. We all know that in the past when McFarlane was using just those round ball joints, the figures were a little bit harder to get to stand. But if you have any figures that have the sculpted ankle joints, I would just like you to take note of how easier they are to stand on their own. Now each one comes with his own data file card. You have the standard version. It shows an image on the front. Pretty cool. They are doing once again that comic style artwork, but using images from the film. On the back you do have some information. Pretty cool. Now on the other card you have a different image, more like in a battle kind of stance. But on the back you have the same information, but we will add those to the collection. Now first off, your standard version does come with this awesome blaster that actually couples on to the forearm of the figure. Now this is really beautiful. I love like the sort of organic sculpt work that they did on this. Also has mixtured in there like a sort of mechanical insect texture to it, so that's pretty cool. He also comes with these 2 power rings. Now I have yet to see the film, so I'm not exactly sure what these are, but of course they go into his hands. But always nice to have a little bit more accessories. Then he comes with this awesome bladed weapon. Now what I really like about this is the added attention to detail in the sculpt work. It just has all these little like designs and like alien artifact sort of glyphs on it, and it looks really cool. It has a nice metallic blue wash like just skimmed over the top of the designs, which give it a little bit of life. And then it has a sort of matte black, sort of satin black, not a glossy black, but a little bit more of a dull finish, and I actually prefer that in some action figures. So that's a cool looking weapon. Now the battle mode version actually comes with different things. It comes with the actual detachable scarab. Really cool. It feels awesome. It has a lot of cool sculpting design, and the paint on this is beautiful. Now that is partially the 2 big differences from these 2 figures, and that is that the battle mode version actually comes with 2 fists, while the standard version came with 2 gripping hands. And also the standard version, you cannot remove the scarab. It is like really stuck on there. You'll never get it off. And the battle mode is actually detachable. So although they do look really similar and they are exactly the same figure, they do have those slight differences, which is a sort of incentive to pick up both versions. Now he also comes with wings. Now these Beetle wings actually are used with the removable scarab to attach to the back of the figure. The only negative I would say is that it has really minimal articulation. You can actually see this when you place them onto the scarab, that it just moves very slightly, so you cannot fold them down. They basically have to stay up when you pose them with the wings, so that takes up a lot of room in the display part of of these figures. So but they are beautiful, sort of transparent plastic with these cool appendages added on to the tips of the wings, so pretty nice. And the battle mode is actually the one that comes with alternate hands. You actually have a splayed open hand, which is really useful. You have a peace sign hand, which is cool for some attitude posing. And then you also have a thumbs up and a pointing figure to give it the character a little bit of, panache. So pretty cool. All in all, awesome releases. They look really cool. Now, we won't look at both figures, but we will take a look at one to get the gist of the release. Now, first impressions, what I do really like is, since we've had a lot of reuse of bodies recently, I mean, not 100%, but there has been a lot of reuse. It's really refreshing to see a figure that has a completely new sculpt, and not even a new sculpt, but an awesome sculpt with tons of detail all over the figure. And one thing that jumps out to me right away is that awesome metallic blue paint that they put on this figure. They actually added a lot of cool paint that you don't usually see, with a little bit of wash to bring out the sculpt work, and it actually has tons of little added alien detail in the suit, which is really nice. Now, heard a lot of people complaining about how the arms look extra long. Now, I can tell you that once you get it in your hand and posing, you can't really tell. They are slightly long, but I think this might have to do with the fact of the way they constructed how you connect the Beetle blaster, and that is where you have to pop off the forearm and then add that on here. So this might have put off the arms a little bit, made them a little bit off, and actually both figures can detach the forearm and accept the blaster. But all in all, it's a really nice looking figure. Let's take a look at the head sculpt. Once again, I don't understand people. You see them again in the comments saying, oh, this is a ripoff of Iron Man. I mean, a lot of heroes are very similar. You could take characters from Marvel and from DC and even from other companies, and they'll have similarities or like a similar look, because it's only so far that you could change a character. I mean, of course, there are very unique characters that look completely different to any other characters in different lines. But just because there is a similar look or design doesn't mean that the powers and the character are exactly the same. So let's grow up a little bit and stop trying to, bring down the uniqueness of characters. And don't forget, Deadpool is a complete ripoff of Deathstroke the Terminator. Deathstroke the Terminator is actually older than Deadpool. So for anybody saying who ripped off who, in the end, it does not really matter. Just enjoy your figures, enjoy your characters, enjoy them, and move along, little goober. Now this is an awesome head sculpt. You could see the paint detail and the sculpt design in here. I really like this. I mean, I'm not a big Reyes Blue Beetle fan. I'm more of a Ted Kord guy, but I do accept him and appreciate the work that they've done, to work with this character in the comics, and actually a lot of other forms of entertainment like cartoons. I was a big fan of Batman the Brave and the Bold, and he plays a big part in that series. Actually, that is where I learned that he was from El Paso, which is where I'm from, and that is something that they omitted in the movie, which kind of turned me off right away as soon as I heard that. But it is what it is. I'll still eventually end up watching it, and it's not so big of a deal to me that I'm going to hate on it just because of that fact. Let's take a look at the articulation. Looks down really well. Looks up, awesome. Got right to left. Can tilt his head for some attitude. So all in all, awesome head sculpt. Smooth articulation. Go ahead and take a look at the waist. You got side to side. You got the full tilt-a-whirl. You got a lower waist swivel. Upper chest swivel. Twist them. Get them in some fighting poses. You do have a front crunch. Pretty generous front crunch there. And of course you could lean them back per usual with McFarlane figures. Now I have noticed something, and that is that people talk a lot about the front crunch, but when you actually get older figures, DC Direct, even DC Universe Classics, even Marvel Legends that have that old, like sort of kitchen stove, clunky front crunch, they don't really crunch as forward as the people make you think. Because I forget what figure it is, but recently I was kind of playing around with a figure to do a custom, and he had that old school, Marvel Legends style crunch, and it did not crunch forward. I mean, very minimal. So I don't understand why. To me, this is more than enough crunch, and I don't understand why people expect it to like right away crunch all the way down and touch his toes, when even other lines, they don't crunch down as far as a lot of people make it out to be. So that's pretty interesting to me, but this waist has more than enough articulation to get your figure photography and your poses in there, your playability. So now one thing I will talk about is the trunks. I do think that they should have cut them a little bit lower. They've been doing this for a couple of figures. I think Captain Atom was one. But I actually don't mind if you see a little bit of the lower cut there in the abdomen. But what I do mind is seeing the trunks too far up. And it actually even kind of constricts the forward crunch a little bit. So you could cut this, but I think it looks so nice. And from far away, you can't even tell that it's different pieces. So it does save the integrity of the sculpt, so I'm gonna leave it like this because I think it looks really good actually. Let's take a look at the shoulders. Beautiful socket and bushing shoulder joint movement. You get a lot of range, and really what this does is cover that gap between the shoulder and the chest and gives it a clean look and design, but a lot of range. You got bicep swivel, double jointed elbows that are actually awesome. They look really good. Moving down, you have more of that cool, like sort of insectoid, sort of exoskeleton look of the armor. And of course, on this left hand, this is where you can remove the forearm pretty easily and slap on the blaster. Put him in some cool poses. So that's really nice. I mean, and also the playability with it, the smoothness to interchange the pieces is really good. Put that forearm back on. Now you do have the McFarlane wrist articulation that actually gives you more than other companies, which is 4 ways of articulation: up, swivel, and hinge. And of course, these are 2 open hands. On the other side, you have the same thing, but this forearm is not removable. But you go down into another gripping hand on the standard release. Now, you can get him in a T pose, and you could actually move the pauldrons above his shoulder. Now, it doesn't really reach 90 degrees, but you can actually swivel the shoulder back and then put the arm up to get the 90 degrees, or an added range of motion if you would like. Put the arms above his head for more range. Actually, this is a awesome figure, better than I thought it was going to be. Moving down, now on the chest, you got that cool paint job, the different tones of blue, and showing that scarab design on the chest, the antennae that go around under the rib cage. Awesome, awesome sculpt work. Let's take a look at the thighs. You have minimal swivel at the hips. Now you could probably heat this up and loosen it up a little bit, but you can still move the boot from side to side, which is really what you want from that hip joint, without having a hideous thigh cut to break up the sculpt. Now you can kick up really high, and you can kick back as well. Now do not be afraid. The trunks are made of rubber, and they are made that way so that they could flex to the movement of the legs, so you can see they get out of the way. And when you put them back, they actually reform back to their original shape. Cock out the knee, got that McFarlane hip swivel, double jointed knees, straighten them out, up and down at the ankle, right to left, rocker, and of course toe articulation. Now before we go, taking a look at the rest of the lower body, awesome sculpt work, awesome paint job, awesome design. You got those beautiful sculpted ankle joints that match up with the silhouette of the figure. And these ankle joints, as I said before, actually make them a lot easier to stand than those old regular cylindrical ball joints. So really happy with that. Take a look at them from the bottom. Some weird alien tread and no identifying marks. Moving up the back, nice sculpt work. Even into the hinges of the knees, you got sculpt work and even some paint added there. From the lower calf up into the thigh, into the back. Now I love this. McFarlane once again got a chance to do some sort of spinal work where you can see vertebrae moving up into the scarab. Now of course we said this scarab is not removable, but it looks really good. Awesome, awesome figure from all sides. He looks really good. Really happy to have him in the collection. Actually enjoying him a lot more than I thought I would. But it's a pretty cool figure. Now you can get the battle mode, of course, and add on the wings to the scarab. It's pretty simple. And then of course you port those onto his back, so now you could have a winged version of the Blue Beetle. Now this gets me to a point of playability and price and value that I wanted to talk about. And you hear a lot of people saying that this was a waste, you should have just made a deluxe set for $40-50, and I could have got all the hands, the weapons, the wings with one figure. Now, pretty much when people say this, like I've seen some other reviewers saying this, that it's not a good value, and I think that pretty much these guys are dealing in beads. They are the dumbest dealers in the dope game, and they would not have survived with me out there on the streets. But you are getting an awesome value just the way this is in the two packages. Let me explain. Now, let's just say you were to take the one figure, all the hands, all the weapons, and the wings, and put them into one package. Now this would be a larger package, and it would be a more expensive set, which would look more above $40, closer to $50. And if a regular family that heard about Blue Beetle, because let's face it, this character is not a really widely known character, and they're in the toy aisle, and the little kid sees Blue Beetle, parents are more unlikely to buy a $50 big box set for a little kid. I mean, it just does not make sense. They would tell them to pick something smaller, more like $10-15, and the kid would cry, and there would be a big disaster, because they do not want to spend $50, even $40 on a toy for a little kid. Now, I recently saw these actually at Walmart. I already had them, so I didn't pick up any, but I did buy another Captain Atom that I saw in package. And These figures were actually priced at $19.97. That is here in my local Walmart. So a little kid could say, oh, look, it's Blue Beetle from the movie. I want that figure. $20 is a lot more reasonable than $50. And these figures could sell to, random consumers in the aisle. They don't necessarily have to be comic book nerds or action figure collectors. They could see how the figure looks and that the movie came out and that their kid wants one, and $20 is not a stretch to buy a figure for a little kid. And actually, buying these two separate figures, you get the same things you would have gotten in a big deluxe package. You would get the figure, the hands, the weapons, the wings, and you would also get an extra body to display either version that you want. You want to have them in wings, you could display them in the air or on a flight stand, and you want to have them with just the sword, or maybe even find a head sculpt that you want to swap out to give them an unmasked version. Or maybe they could have made the standard version with an unmasked actor head sculpt. You would get all of this for $40 with the ability to display both versions of the character. Now actually, if we were to go with the jelly brain thought of a deluxe package, you only get one body, and you would have to switch out whenever you wanted to display the figure. You would have to switch out all the parts and pose them in a different way and take off the wings, when you can avoid all of that by just buying both of these figures and getting everything you want for actually a cheaper price. So I hope we understand that. We have a ability to communicate our thoughts and our ideas, and that's just my position on the deluxe pack of these standard released figures. Now actually, for comparison, I do have the original DC Universe Classics Blue Beetle. Now if you know, McFarlane has actually released the small Blue Beetle that is more of a comic style, that doesn't have sort of the movie parts that this one does. So in all actuality, that actually means that we are most definitely going to get a comic book version of Blue Beetle. It's going to be more representative of that little 3-inch figure that McFarlane has released. But the DC Universe Classic is more of a comic book style figure. He did come with like a bladed weapon attachment for his arm. And of course I have two of these because he also came with wings. So I wanted to display both versions, which was one with the weapon and one with the wings. Now you could say, but you could have just displayed the one with the wings and still put the weapon on him, and you wouldn't have had to buy two. But that would mean that you don't really know me. I am a sick man.
God, you're sick.
And this is just something, the way I collect action figures is by buying multiples of the ones I like, or multiples when I have to display different head sculpts or different attachments. So awesome figure. He looks really cool. I'm really happy to add him to the collection. Now I can't say enough how this guy poses really nicely. He looks really good. He actually, for a placeholder, will sit in well with your comic versions until we get official McFarlane comic style Blue Beetle. But you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.